Okay, let's get started. We're already running a little bit behind, but I'm sure you all have lunch when lunch is planned. So. Okay, I do have a loud voice, a loud enough voice that I perhaps don't need this, but it particularly helps with the video recordings, because the videos get better clarity of sound rather than if I just speak, particularly if I turn my head away. At least the sound's still coming at the video. Alright, my name is Paul Bedford. You have me for the next 50 or so minutes doing this presentation. I'd like to thank EHFA, EuropeActive, for inviting me. A lot of conferences around the world invite me to speak, but they also understand that there is a risk in asking me to speak because I say what I think and I use research evidence to back up what I'm suggesting. But that usually means we have a debate, a lively debate about things, and I question the fitness industry all the time. Now, for your reference, it's not a slide, I thought it was coming on this. Anyway, for your reference, I'm videoing this session so that there will be a video record of this that you'll be able to access in the future, like Monday, once I've edited it and dropped all the slides over it and everything. But you'll need to email me for that. All of the slides on here, Robbie will get and you will be able to have access to as a PDF. So you don't need to keep taking pictures of the slides. If you want to take a picture of me pointing at a slide, that's fine, but just copy me in so I've got a version of it as well. I've got to be honest, when I started, or when I was asked to do this presentation, I sort of misunderstood what the purpose of the event was. And so I started to put a whole presentation around research and what we understand about research in terms of exercise. And I was going to start with this, and probably one of my most provocative slides that I ever use, which is we don't need any more research on the benefits of exercise. I think there is enough research on the benefits of exercise. I think it's well documented, well laid out, well structured. But remember, I come from a perspective of always looking at how you keep people exercising for longer. So I won't be using this slide beyond this, and I'm not entering into discussion on that. But what I do, and the reason I was invited to speak, is I've worked in the industry for more than 25 years. I started as a gym instructor, worked as a PT, had a PT business, spent 14 years as a teacher educating people to be personal trainers before stepping back from that part of the industry. I'd also run clubs as well as a club manager to study exercise psychology. I've always been interested in why people stop exercising. I've never been that worried about how you get them through the door. I actually think our industry is fantastically good at getting people through the door. You know, our sales approaches, our marketing approaches, we can get thousands of people a year to walk through a door and say, I want to be part of something. What I've always struggled with is, what do we do to actually keep them for longer? So I did a master's degree in exercise psychology. I followed that up with a second master's degree in research science, and I ended up doing my PhD looking at the application of behavioural psychology to gym inductions and gym interventions. So I now work, I know in the programme it says I'm working with Bath and I'm working with Middlesex, and I teach on their master's programmes, but I spend the vast majority of my time working with operators. And what I had to learn as an educator and an academic was the reasons businesses do things aren't the reasons academics and educators do things. And I could come to operators with some of the most meticulous models of behaviour change that you could apply in a fitness environment, and they always stump me with the first question: how much money will that make us? That's their number one criteria. How much money will doing that make us over how much will it cost to do? Because I come from an educational background, I was like, yeah, but it's the right thing to do. And they would go, yeah. If it doesn't make us any money, we're not doing it. And if it doesn't make us substantial amounts of money more than what we're already doing, if it disrupts us more than it's worth doing, we're not doing it. So I've had to take a different approach to the way I do my research and the way I do the work that I do, which is work with health club operators. And I work with about 12 operators a year. No more than that. I have a very small business. It's expanding slowly. I'm not sure that I want to be a big business. I know there are lots of people who go, well, we want to have the biggest health club chain or the most members, or we want to do this. I'm quite happy being me, doing my stuff with my office, anywhere in the world with an internet connection. I don't have an ego relative to having a big company. I have a massive ego relative to presenting and speaking my mind. And Aaron showed this piece of research earlier on, and I'm happy to correct the gentleman who made the question. I don't see him now, but I might answer his question even if he's not here. This is UK population data, 342,000 members over a 4-year period from 100 different health clubs. And they represent the mix of types of health clubs in the UK market. So it's a representational study of the demographic of the market. And as Aaron said, look, 52% of our members stop exercising within a single club within 12 months. Now, I think the question, if I heard it correctly, was, what about, do we know what they're doing after that? No, and we never will. Because we've got no way of tracking that if you join your club and you leave, they join your club. How do I know you came from someone else? The only way I looked at doing it within the UK was to have a unique membership number for the fitness industry, not for clubs. So if you go from one club to another, you take that membership with you, a bit like a national insurance number. Then you could track where people are going. But we have no idea where people are going. I did do a study 2 years ago where I interviewed 1,000 members who'd been members of more than 2 clubs about why they joined the first one, why they stayed, why they quit, what decision process they made on the second one, why they joined, why they quit, and really how many different memberships they've had. Now I did have a pen, and the 1,000 members between them had 6,500 years of memberships with health clubs. So they were talking about their experiences and how those experiences evolve. And a simple one here would be someone who first joins a health club and looks at, say, the studio timetable. They look at the studio timetable, let's say it's got 100 classes in 1 week displayed. They're new to exercise, they think their aspiration is they're going to be in the club every day, this is their new lifestyle. Wow, I've got 100 classes to choose from. I'm going to be so busy. By the time they've been a member of a club and left, and a member of a club and left, and a member of a club and left, when they walk into this club and they look at the 100 classes on the timetable, they go, I only do yoga. And you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, but they're at the weekend and I'm away at the weekend. You've got 6 classes for me. They're not impressed by the whole timetable because they're only interested in them. And they might go, well actually, if there's yoga, and I'm not suggesting these are the same things, so please don't miss it. If I do yoga, I might be interested in doing something like Pilates, or I might be interested in doing something like a relaxed type class, or something that's more mind-body orientated that is more HIIT training. So they'll look for similarities, but they'll quickly make decisions about your timetable. And you can go, look at our timetable, and they go, 6 classes. And at 60 euros a month, and I'm only going to do 2 of those classes, that works out at this much per class. They do that in their head while they're looking at your timetable. Like that. So we'll never know whether they've joined or left, joined or left, joined or left, unless we have a single unique identifier that can track them. What will be interesting though is, as more and more people move towards tracking their own exercise programs through apps, the app might be able to tell you where their first location was, where their second location was, because of the GPS. Because we'll have all the data from this location, and then if we geotag it, we'll have all the data from that location, and we'll know, or the app will know, even though we may not know as operators. So I spend all my time working with operators, and to give you just a flavour of who I work with, In the past, I've worked with Elixir in Norway and Finland. I've worked with Club Med gyms in Paris for their 22 sites. I work with Marriott Europe, who run hotels, but they also have 172 health clubs within those hotels. And then I work with smaller municipal operators and individual sites. If you've ever been to London and you've been to the Reebok Club in Canary Wharf, it's a 33,000 square metre facility. They do 3,300 member visits a day. It's big. It's like a machine. It's this time of day, empty. Before work, lunchtime, after work, really busy. And what I look to do is I look to use data and create curves and patterns, and I'll show you some of those from different places in Europe, to identify when the majority of their members are dropping off. So we can put in strategies. I don't have a single strategy that I use with operators. I don't go, I know Jan introduced you to some of you to the stage of the change model, yeah, which is just one behaviour change model. I don't go, oh, we should apply the behaviour change model to every operator, because it doesn't work. Some operators, the ratio of staff to members, for 1,000 members, they have 5 staff. In some clubs, for 5,000 members, they have 2 employed people, and everybody else is personal trainer working for themselves. So you can't deploy the same strategy each and every time. But you can use basic behaviour change techniques to improve how long people stay. And this was my PhD. From the academic research perspective, this was a failure. And I'll explain why in a second. What you have here on the blue line is a standard 1-hour gym induction. So someone joining a club, walking up, having a session with a fitness instructor, not a personal trainer, just a fitness instructor. They do their health questionnaire, they identify their goals, they write out a basic program, they show them the equipment, they get them to do the equipment, they come up with a program, and then away they go. Standard 1-hour gym induction. This one is the same 1-hour gym induction plus some additional behaviour change support in the first 4 weeks. So they get 60 minutes, standard, then they get 30 minutes behaviour change, then 20 minutes behaviour change, and then 10 minutes behaviour change, all delivered on the gym floor. So this isn't go, let's go and sit down and do something else. This is all done on the gym floor, taught by a level 2 gym instructor. Simple techniques you can teach. You don't have to be advanced to learn these techniques, you just need to know how to deploy them and when to deploy them. So I did a training with this group. It took 2 days to teach them how to do it, and afterwards they ran the study for me. It took 5 months to recruit all of the people, because they don't all wait outside the door going, you've got a new study going, we want to be part of it. So it took 5 months to recruit everybody. So it took 17 months, oh, I changed it back. 17 months to run the entire study. The blue line, standard 1-hour gym induction. The red line, people who had the additional behaviour change support in the early stages. It was a randomised controlled trial. That's the most rigorous scientific approach you can use for testing things. On average, the people who received this stayed 7 months. Oh, months. Longer than the people who got that. 7 months. At 4 years, they all come together. So at 4 years, no one was left at this club. And this was a commercial club right in the centre of London. So by randomising, we can guarantee that the people in this group had all the same characteristics as a group as the people in this group. Why was it a failure? Because my intention was to increase the number of visits per month, and it didn't increase the number of visits per month. They still only averaged 4 visits per month, once a week. The intervention group averaged 1.2 visits per week compared to 1 visit per week. Statistically, that's significant. Realistically, you can't do 0.2 of a workout. Yeah? So, from an academic, I was trying to show how we could increase visit frequency, and I increased length of stay, which lots of operators really liked. They said, so they don't come anymore, but they stay longer. So it sort of didn't really give me the effect I was looking for, but you know, we work on it. Here's 2 clubs in central London. This is the red line, 82% of their members stay 12 months. Their sister clubs, 78% of their members stay 12 months. The blue line represents the UK average, where it would be at 12 months. So I've drawn it right the way across, but that's where it would be. They're doing significantly better than the industry average, mainly because they're deploying behaviour change in the processes of working with their customers. And these guys use almost exclusively personal trainers to deliver their services. The problem we have, I suppose, is that the same business models give us the same business results. And we've had a paradigm shift in our industry over the last number of years, where the low-cost models come in, and it's been much more technology-driven. So an operator I work with called the Gym Group in the UK, they have clubs of about 5,500 members and only 2 employed staff. And everything is delivered via technology. Yes, you can buy personal training, but their model is no staff really, deliver everything through technology. Interesting enough, they've come to me and said, can you help us? We'd like them to stay a little bit longer than they're already staying. Because what we've identified over a number of years, myself and my colleague Dr. Melvin Hillston, low price does not equate longer memberships. People who pay low price actually quit faster than people who pay high price, which surprises lots of people. Okay, this is multi-site, one multi-site operator in the UK, 44 sites, 120,000 members. You can't do the same thing in every club. They said to me, give us our retention strategy for our business. And I said, the problem is, your worst performing club, your membership looks like this, and your best performing club, your membership looks like this. A strategy to improve that isn't a strategy to improve that. The reason people stay in clubs is not the same reason they joined. Their motivations change over time. And you're usually looking around about 6 months in terms of where the changes are in terms of internal and external motivators. So intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. So they're only getting 18%, they're getting 70%. We introduced a strategy to these guys and improved their bottom line by £11.5 million across the 44 sites. I wish I'd done it as a profit share. I did it as a fee. Won't do that again. This is Portugal. Just recently back from Portugal, working with some operators. One operator's getting 72% through to 12 months, and another's getting 38% through to 12 months. Pretty much the same businesses when you look at the demographic of the members, the way they market, the way they sell them, but there are some slight differences in the way they operate inside, and it has an effect. So I argue, and I argue this a lot, and I'm quite happy to argue this, the gap in our knowledge is adopting exercise behaviour. You know, I don't look at the standards in the same way as you do. To be fair, I don't look at the standards at all. I'm not an educator anymore, I'm not training people. But when I meet people who are in the industry, fitness professionals, managers, stuff, they have no idea about how you help people change behaviour. Before this morning, how many of you could name any... Sorry, this is going to be an admission, all right? Bit of a confession. Who here could name more than one behaviour change model before Jan stood up this morning? He stood up and went stages of change, and everyone went... And they went, health belief, and you went, what? Self-efficacy, what? Our industry doesn't know about these things, and these things have been around since the 70s, some of them. The challenge for me is that some of the models are from, as Jan pointed out with the trans-theoretical model, the stages of change, that came from smoking. Most of the models we've tried to adopt in an exercise environment have come from other environments. Relapse prevention comes from alcohol abuse. Yeah? They come from, we have very few models that were designed around our industry or the behaviour. And most behaviour change models are about giving up bad behaviours, not taking up good ones. So the whole framing of them is, I'm no longer a drinker, yeah. I'm no longer a smoker, yeah. I'm no longer inactive. It doesn't really have the same motivator to go, oh, I'm an exerciser now, and I never used to be. It doesn't have that drive. So we've got these different models of behaviour changes. They come in slowly on my slide. That should have been quicker. There is another one. Here it comes. But what you have to do, and what a lot of operators insist on, is don't disrupt my business if you want to help us. We want change, we want things to be better, but don't tell us to stop doing all the things we're doing, because I don't want to risk losing money on any site. So even with test sites, you have to go really, really carefully. You can't just go, give me this club, we'll change everything. They go, yeah, well, what about our bottom line? Are you going to protect our bottom line just in case that goes down and not up? So what we need to look for, particularly as our industry evolves, is business models that support behaviour change and behaviour change models that work with business. So not only do I look at exercise psychology, I look at retail psychology, consumer psychology. I look at outside of the industry to see how supermarkets are getting people to change behaviours, car manufacturers are getting people to change behaviours, how Apple get a third of the world's population to go before they can even get access to the product. Now for me, I use self-efficacy. I know Jan mentioned it a lot this morning. I use self-efficacy as a simple model that's easy to deliver. The self-efficacy model is about people's belief in their ability to be successful. Simply put like this. Those of you, and most of you look like you have, remember when STEP first came into the industry. The STEP came in and people were up and down. And if you're old enough, you'll remember this was the STEP class. 1, 2, 3, change and repeat. And the advanced version was, STEP got so complicated that in the end, even the teachers couldn't do the classes. So, who here's ever done a STEP class? Who here the first time they went into a STEP class, they were like, yeah, I can do this. I've got this. And then they went, tap change. And you're like, what? And they went, and, you know, what was it called? Round the house? I don't know. Round the world. Tap change, go the other way. As soon as the group started turning around, I could be standing there, you could be facing me, and I'm like, oh my God. I'm the wrong way round on the wrong side of my step. What do you think happens to my self-efficacy? My belief in my ability to be successful goes. I'd rather be unhappy outside than unhappy in front of everybody here. So we have to think about ways of exercise programming that develop people's self-efficacy, not undermine it. I've never heard anyone walk into a club and say, I want to roll around on a big blue ball. Yet when stability balls first came in, if your instructors had been on a stability ball class that weekend, for the next 6 weeks, everybody that walked in, no matter what their goal was, they got stability ball. And the instructor would find some way of convincing you that yes, standing on a stability ball would be good for weight loss or for stress relief. Have you ever tried standing on a stability ball for stress relief? It just doesn't happen. So self-efficacy is about 3 main things. Your belief in your ability to be successful, that the end result has value to you, and the activity you are doing leads to that valued outcome. There's a link. I can do it, what I do will give me the result, and I value the result. So it's a simple model that you can teach staff, because they get that, without having lots of other difficult constructs for them to understand. Now, I'm interested in how you measure things, and Jan pointed out this morning, I use a certain number of definitions and I measure stuff a lot. And I use the term retention when I'm talking about the financial behaviour of members. And I talk about adherence when I talk about their physical activity behaviour. So there's their financial behaviour and then there's their physical activity behaviour. Now, the reason I use this, and this might seem a little bit off track, if you have a car, you have a number of gauges and a number of ways to tell you how well that car's performing. Each one of these things tells you something different. They all tell you something different. How fast the car's going, the efficiency, the miles per gallon, mile per kilometre, the acceleration, the CO2 emissions, they all tell you something different that you can use to improve the performance of that car, whether it's to go faster or be more economical. We have to use a number of different things to measure member behaviour, not one thing, and not categorise them as one is the opposite of another. So what you'll find a lot is that people will say, talk about attrition. Now, I'm going to be polite today. Most of my presentations, if you look at them on YouTube, come with an adult advisory sticker. All right? Stop measuring attrition. It's not worth measuring. I want to know how long they live for, not when they die, how many died. If I've got a group of members, 100 members join, and 80 of them quit, this is attrition. Sorry, attrition. The number that quit. And I would report that as a rate. I'm fed up of looking at people reporting it as a percentage because it's not accurate. If I have another 100 join and 80 quit, I've still got the same rate, and in terms of percentages, I'd end up with the same percentage as well. So you could have two clubs, this one, and I know the manager who manages this club also manages 4 others. So let's imagine there's more of these. The important thing to me is, what's the gap between there and there? Because if that's 1 month and that's 1 year, that's what's important to me. How long do they stay? So I will report it because it gives us an ability to compare like for like, if we do it as a rate, per 1,000 members per month. Because then you can compare clubs of different sizes, you can segment, you can do everything. You can't do it as a percentage. And the traditional way our industry does it, it says attrition is the opposite of retention. Rubbish. And it says you take all your members that join that you've already got, over the course of 12 months you add on all these people, you take off all these people and you have a figure at the end. This is why it doesn't work. Right, let's see what your math skills are like. You start with 1,000 every month. So 12 times, you join 100 members. How many people have you joined in 12 months? Come on, I'm keeping it straightforward. It's just 1,200. So how many have you got? Well, and every month for 12 months, you lose 100. So, same figure, 1,200. How many have you got at the end of the year? 1,000. Some people using the percentage calculation go, we started with 1,000, we've got 1,000, 0 attrition. You've actually joined and lost more people than you had at the beginning of the year. In fact, if you do some of the traditional calculations that you'll see on certain websites, this comes out as 83% attrition. It doesn't tell you anything about the length of stay. We don't know if the people who joined in January left in February or they left in December. We don't even know if it's these people that are leaving or these people that are leaving. And in fact, the challenge really is, if you sold 150 each month, but only lost 100, your attrition goes down, not because you're losing more people, less people, but because you're selling more sales. You've got 2 moving points at the same point. So it could be up here, down here, here, here. Doesn't make sense. It's also, if you look at it from an academic perspective, in no statistical or business metric books. It's something our industry made up during the early 1990s. And our industry as a whole has gone, oh, follow that. Nightmare. The proper way to measure the distance between someone joins and when they leave is called survival analysis, or it's called time to event. And you basically measure the difference between when someone started something and when they finished it. It's used in medicine to look at recovery. You know, we had an operation, did they live or did they die? And if they lived, how long did they live for? It's used to calculate your insurance rates. How long you'll live for based on your health behaviours. It's used by car manufacturers to work out the longevity of their parts in their cars. This tyre does 10,000 miles. You put that on a car, you drive 10,000 miles, at the end of 10,000 miles you need to replace it. Even on food packaging, you know the sell by or eat by date? Created, consumed by. It's survival. That product will survive for this number of days. We've got the same with health club memberships. So it's a standard method. There are thousands of statistical people that can work this out. Any statistician can do this. This is bread and butter stuff every day. So for me, I talk about retention. It's the length of stay as it relates to the money. What's the gap between here and here, or the other one, and how much money does that create? Attrition, I talk about when I do as the quit rate, how many members per 1,000. The lifetime value, if you want to work out the average length of stay, it's not the mean. It's not the mean calculation. It's not that, because we don't have an equal distribution curve. We have a skewed curve. So you have to do what's called the median, the 50 percentile. Half stay longer and half stay less. Only I would call this a pilot study. Anywhere else in the world, they would call this a study. But for me, this is a pilot study. This is 97 clubs from what's called Central Southwest, or West South Central, I can't remember, United States. So we've got Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, and Louisiana. 97 clubs, 181,000 members. Blue line represents when they stopped paying, red line represents when they stopped visiting. So we can look at the difference in behaviour between when they stop paying and when they actually stop coming. And guess what? In sort of 90% of the circumstances, stop coming precedes stop paying. The only time stop coming is after stop paying is when someone's in their final month and they're still using the club up to the end, and then they go, I'm leaving at the end of the month, so they have a date beyond the last payment. Well, that's pretty much the same as the UK data. And I call it a pilot study because I'm currently working on over 1 million member study for North America. So I know that I looked up academically in PubMed, for those who understand what PubMed is. The study I did on the UK, 342,000 members, if that was published as an academic study, it'd be one of the 10 largest studies of all time. I'm not worried about publishing academically. This is a major US health club chain. I was recently invited to speak in New York to 20 large health club chains at an event similar to this, except it was about making money. And this is a chain that you'd recognise. In fact, non-exercise people would recognise this brand. I can't tell you who that is. They had 54% of their members make it through to the first 12 months. Now that varied across some of their sites. Some of them, the average length of stay was just 10 months. Some of them it was 17 months. And we can actually investigate that through the data and by visit and work out what it is that makes the difference. So it's not just in the UK, that's Portugal. Something interesting happening there. It's always the same in terms of age. Younger people always quit faster than older people. Easier to sell to, but they always quit faster. Usually no point going over 45 and branding in 10-year categories. There aren't enough members over that age in most of the clubs for it to be statistically relevant. But we always see this. The average length of stay, the median length of stay, 16 to 24-year-olds, 5.7 months. 45 plus, 21 months. They stay longer. This is independent of what they actually do. Don't know what they do explain though, because look, it just seems here, everybody who gets beyond 12 months never leaves. So I'm questioning that. Or they've got the perfect example. And I'll publish that somewhere we can all use it. Now, I use the term adherence to represent how many people stuck to the program as described. So if you're saying to someone, you're going to do 12 sessions this month, adherence is measured as a percentage of the sessions you did compared to the number you said you would do. So, if I said I was going to do 12 sessions and I did 9, that we'd have 75% adherence to that program. Now, a lot of academic studies have used that, and that's particularly, I've sort of just copied it from there. What's been interesting is that some of the studies when you look at the way they report them, if you set 12 and people did 12, they were considered to be, they adhered to the program. If they did 10 out of 12, they were considered non-adherers. Even though they'd started with 0, they'd never been exercisers. Which I don't think is fair, really. They've made the effort, they've increased their activity up to 10 sessions a month, but because they weren't doing 12, no. We said 12, you didn't do it, therefore adherence is, you're not good for adherence. The one that sort of overlaps the two that needs to be considered is visit frequency. How many times per month someone's actually coming through the door. And I prefer to look at things per month than per week, because you get a better understanding of people's behaviour. Just quickly, just to give you a sense of what you can see if you look into the data, this was a subset of 1,000 members over a 21-week period. And you can see that 89% had used the club, therefore 110% did not use the 110 did not use the club, not 110%. 5% used the club 3 times or more a week, 7% 3 times a week, 14 twice a week, 32 once a week, and 31% did not visit the club once in a 21-week period. That's pretty standard. In fact, that's pretty good actually. I'm used to seeing this figure being down around about 2% and this around about 3%. The idea that people are using their clubs on a really, a lot of people use their clubs really frequently. I'm not seeing that in the data that I look at. My #1 favourite slide of all time. For me, the #1 behaviour we need to change in our members, our users, the people who access our products, is visit frequency. Because without visit frequency, without them actually doing something, they don't get any results. So, we did some analysis on, this was actually on some Fitness First clubs, about 16 of them. What we were shown is if your staff interact with your members, the chances of being a member next month goes up by 20% if there's one interaction this month. So if I speak to you in October once, chances of you being a member in November go up by 20%. Is that a 5-minute or a question?
No, it's a question.
Okay, that's fine, because I'm just looking at the time, that's all.
How do you define interaction?
Hello. The minimum was hello.
Okay.
Face to face with a person. Do you need anything? How are you? But it had to happen on the gym floor. It doesn't count and has less impact if it's done by front of house. Not that it's not valued, but if you talk to members, they go, well, it's called reception. Aren't they supposed to speak to you? They actually value being interacted with on the gym floor really much more. 2 to 3 interactions, they're 50% more likely to be with you. 4 or more interactions, they're 80% more likely to be with you. That's 1 interaction a week over a month if you can get to visit once a week. Therefore, I'm going to suggest that our #1 priority as an industry is improve visit frequency. Because when visit frequency drops off, we see exercise adherence drop off and member payment drop off. For me, it's all about the frequency. In the ACSM, I did all my ACSM, luckily for me, back in the 90s. I don't know if it was luckily for me, it was just back in the 90s. Frequency, intensity, time type, or duration type, it's all about that. Most of what we do, or what I see instructors looking at, it's all about that. Time and intensity, how long, how much more, what. Actually, just get them to come another time. It could be the most spectacular program, but if they don't actually come and do it, it has no impact at all. Rather than someone who comes along, gets on their life cycle, pedals just enough to keep the lights on, 3 times a week for a year. The health benefits of physical activity are derived from repeated bouts of activity, not a few odd sessions now and again and wow, and then they stop. For me, and you might have a different view on this, for me, the vast majority of the population are inactive, and our first attempt should be to move from inactive to active, and then from being active to exercisers. Now, I've been involved in big studies in the UK, 8,500 people we moved from inactive to active in one study. I don't focus on that anymore, that's someone else, that's public health, that's other issues. But I want them to go from active to exercise. I want to shift this curve along. I'm less worried about the high-end, high-performance, elite-level training. I just want the whole population to be a bit more active. I don't care what they do, as long as they're more active. But the only research I do is when they do it within 4 walls of the building. Other people, from my perspective, other people can study what they do outside. And most of my clients don't care what they do outside, as long as they keep coming back to the building. The building becomes the hub, or they do their exercise in that building. And I accept that that is a weakness, perhaps, of what I do, but it's what I do. I'm going to suggest this, that in terms of exercise frequency, the term should start build up to, not just be, oh, you should exercise 3 times a week. You should build up to 3 times a week. Because one of the barriers for exercise is the number of frequencies we're looking for. We've got the ultimate in terms of, 2 to 3 times a week for 45 to 90 minutes at these percentages of heart rate and these resistance levels. Build up to. If we make it the entry point, the vast majority of the population say, I can't do 3 times a week, so I won't do anything. And I think our message should be, we should encourage people to build up to 3 times a week, 4 times a week, 5 times a week. I can show you data from operators where when members come in and do new exercises, completely new, try and do more than 3 times a week in the first month, so more than 12 sessions, they quit faster than people who only come once a week. Because they try and do too much too soon. They try and change too many behaviours. For me, it's all about small incremental changes that give people results. So I would suggest this, the standard should say build up to. And we should educate people. I looked at some of the people who were applying to do personal trainer competitions and industry awards things. And some of the comments they were like, train or die. If you want to work out with me, I expect 100% commitment. And if you're not 100% committed to the diet I write in the exercise program I'm going to give you, I don't want you as a client. Now that will attract a certain group, but it's not appropriate to my mum. She's not going to make those drastic changes, and I question whether she could sustain those drastic changes beyond the initial period. So build up to. Because I think a lot of what we focus on as an industry, and I understand it, is not attractive to the wider population. It's attractive to us. We look at people doing stuff and go, and the population go, I'm not doing that, I want to do this. So we have to think about how we sell our messages to make what we offer more attractive. Because we're certainly not, if we're going to go to the health organisations, the government, and say, we should be a partner with you in improving health, but we can say to them, on average, we can keep half of our people exercising for 12 months. They'll go, you know what, might do Slimmer's World. We need to build up an evidence base that we can keep people exercising beyond early stages. This is a behavioural hook. It comes from, actually, Aaron mentioned this in his line, it's gamification. I've adapted it slightly for exercise, but these are all the things that they do in exercise, in games, to get you adhering to games and wanting to be involved in games. There are external and internal triggers. There's a time and effort involved in acquiring the skills. We don't think about the skill acquisition of new customers. We give them an hour and say, on your way. We need to think about the time it takes to learn our equipment. And thanks to the equipment manufacturers, we are seeing more and more and more sophisticated equipment. But when I talk to fitness staff and go, what can that Technogym treadmill do? What can that Life Fitness treadmill do? They go, well, I only ever press start. And you go, what about the cardio programs? Oh, well, I don't really ever use them. And they don't have any idea of how the computations work to generate the heart rates and stuff like that. It really is scary. Learn it to pass exams, don't use it on a day-to-day basis. But then I'd also blame some of the operators for that they don't insist that their staff know their product. Because if I walk into a restaurant, I want the waiter to know what's on that plate of food and be able to describe to me what's on that plate of food. But a lot of operators don't require that of their staff. So we need the physical and psychological relation, I should say relation, and a behaviour and adherence to it. So my challenge and my comment to you as a group are, where are our content on helping people change and adopt new behaviours? We teach them stuff. We teach them exercise equipment. We teach them exercise classes. But we do very little to change their habits or behaviours. It's interesting because when you start talking to the members, they go, actually we thought that would be part of the process. But actually it's a bit like me saying, here's a camera, this is how you use it, go on way and make an Oscar-winning film. I don't teach you how to make an Oscar-winning film. I just say, there's a camera, good luck. The analogy that I use when I'm teaching PTs and fitness staff is, if you think about driver education, if you learn all the moves that you need to operate a car in 1 hour, and they said, go away and practice and we'll see you in 6 weeks to see how you're getting on, how well do you think people would drive? But we don't. Driver education is built up over time. Self-efficacy. Do a bit, be successful. Do a bit, be successful. Repeat that until you are successful. Until you have competence. I speak no other language apart from English. If I'm learning a language, no one expects me to go from not speaking Dutch to fluent in a session. It's a skill that's developed over time. And I might not want full competency or full fluency in Dutch. I just might want to have enough basic Dutch to get me around and save me if I'm in trouble. And the same with a lot of exercises. They don't need to know everything about exercise. They need to know what's interesting to them and what's relevant to them. I see more and more focus in the clubs on the technical aspects of training. You know, more and more complexity about how muscles interact with connective tissues, and you know, whether they're muscle slings or myofibral slings, or if they're, you know, all these training issues. But they still can't keep people exercising. I recently videoed, I'll make sure you get access to it, I videoed 2 60-minute gym inductions. And in the part where the instructors were teaching the equipment, they gave somewhere between 200 and 300 technical teaching points in an hour. And it wasn't the whole hour, because some of the hours, what are your goals, here's your part cue, here's your... And then we go, well, they don't pick it up very quick. It's just overwhelming. Okay, I videoed this, you can have this. My friend here, we're going to share some videos, so you might get some close-ups up my nose. Questions? I've got 5 minutes, not 5 questions. Questions? Luca?
Can you go back to your favorite slide?
Yeah. I can quote it without looking at it.
If this is true,
Yeah.
it seems that the low cost after that, they're not here to stay.
The low-cost gym, no, the low-cost gym will continue to churn. But there's a limit to churn. I find it quite interesting that it's taken a while, but I am now being approached by low-cost operators saying, what strategies can you help us with to keep people just an extra month? You know, but they're all there. Oh yeah. Oh, we've done this lots of times. Unsupervised gyms, unsupervised, unless you're a savvy exerciser. If you're new to exercise, you need support. If you're savvy, probably anyone in here could go into the gym up there, do a workout, and need to know support. But how long has it taken you to get to the point where you can walk in? I'll come back to you. How long before you can walk into a gym anywhere and just go, actually, I know what I'm doing? It takes a while. It takes our gym instructors a while. You install new equipment in the club. It takes a while for the instructors to get up to speed on the equipment. But we give our members almost no time and go, oh, well, this is it, you do this, you do this, you do this, away you go. And then they have to explore and have that self-determination to want to explore more, do more. We don't help them further along. Right, quick one, because she had her hand up for ages. She's more attractive than you.
You mentioned before the remote plan.
Yeah.
Over 3,000 visits per day.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you make any research or any? Did you study this also? That you club like that was about making this approach sustainable?
Yeah.
Because if I have to interact with
Yeah.
3,000 people
Yeah.
today, how many people should I have?
Right.
Is it a PNF of this?
Yes, okay.
Honestly.
Let me repeat the question because I'm conscious that perhaps people at the back didn't hear. I mentioned earlier on the Reebok Club, 3,500 member, 3,300 member visits per day. Yeah, it's before 9 o'clock, between 11:45 and 2:15, and after 4:30. The rest of the time, it's empty. They have structured their processes, and they have software that allows them to recognise those people who visit less frequently. So you have some software that's able to do that as well. But in a group like this, and you all walk through and swipe, I'd be able to see your name, your face, and your risk of quitting potential. So I can look at Leslie, it's Leslie. I can look at Leslie and go, actually, Leslie exercises on a regular basis. She's low risk. She's not my priority for interaction. She might be my best friend and the person I actually want to talk to every time she comes in, but she's not the person I need to speak to. If it was Robbie who was only coming in, I'd see he hasn't been in for 6 weeks, and it has a highlight of red in the background, sorry mate. He's my priority. And if I'm standing on the gym floor and I've got the technology to do it, I look up, I see Leslie, I go, hi, how are you? She wants to engage me in a conversation, I say, give me a second. Oi! I don't quite do it like that, but I'll make my way over and interact. So it's about prioritising.
So the answer is yes.
Yeah, oh yeah. You need digital, you need technology to support that. If you've got a smaller club, you can often get away without that. Right, you had a question. Oh, turn that way.
Yeah. Okay, my name is Diane, I'm from Norway. I wonder, how do you measure this behavior and the visit? Who do you ask? Is there a question?
Oh, no, it's data. Electronically we collect it.
Electronically?
Yeah.
And this is published in PubMed or?
This is commercial data.
Okay.
So this was done for another organisation, or done for an organisation.
Okay.
But I have published this in articles and stuff. They gave me permission to do that. I just can't tell you who it was for. Well, I did. That was finished first.
So I will find your name in PubMed with, you
well,
know,
not in PubMed. I publish in commercial environments,
Okay.
not in academic environments. I'm interested in helping the industry rather than worrying about publishing academically. Part of that, I'm just lazy.
But it would have been really interesting to do this, you know, like academic.
More people read. Where's Health Club Management? Come on. More people read that than the journal.
Of course.
So it has more impact for me here, for you, than if I put it in the American Journal of Counselling Psychology or the ACSM's journal. Personally, I'm not worried about impressing my peers. I'm interested in helping the industry that I love make a difference. Now, some academics would go, you need to publish, you need to publish. All right, join publish with me, I'll give you the data, give me a call. You know, that's how worried I am about academically publishing. It causes challenges, because if I publish my PhD results, it would almost force some operators who have public money to follow that approach, because government would say, that's a randomised control trial, that's the only one that's ever been done, that's the way it should be done if you want our money. But not all operators can deliver using that format. They don't have the resource to do it, and therefore they'd be disadvantaged.
I know, because if you search academic channels,
Yeah.
you do databases, you don't find anything
No.
supporting this.
No, well, the reason I did my PhD was I didn't want to work in university. I wanted to understand how to do research and do my own research rather than quoting everybody else's. And there are limits to what I can do. The data, the actual, how we collect the data is limiting, you know. But as technology is advancing, I've got a data set that I'm looking at the moment, 1.2 million members. It has 49 million variables. Well, not 49 million variables, it has 49 columns on over 1 million members. So all the different things. Did they buy personal training? Did they do Group X? How, you know, when did they visit the club? So we can really, really drill down. Because most of what you hear about, you know, I get frustrated all the time because I hear, oh, I've done some research. And what they mean is they read something. And I've got no problem with that, you know, and when Jan does his peer review, he's reading everything. But a lot of the time I hear industry people going, oh, I've done my research and this has been shown to improve retention. And I'm like, where? Show me the academic stuff that goes with that. You know, I challenge the whole notion that group exercise keeps people for longer. I'm not saying it doesn't, I'm just saying I'm not seeing the academic research to support that. That'll throw up a few hands. I've got one here, then I'll come back. Go.
Is there already a relationship in the term selling by retention? Is a familiar term, but is there already research done by the way we sell?
Yeah.
And
yeah, I can tell you that if you sell 1 month contracts, they will quit faster than if you sell 2 month, 3 month, 4 month, 5 month, 6 month, 12 month contracts. Your number of sales will come down because it's harder to sell 12 months.
But of course now the business model are changing from all-inclusive to low budget, now more to the boutique niche.
Yeah.
Can you see, it's already research done? In
there's some, well, there's some, and it's just about getting access to data. Some operators will share, some don't. I'm fortunate that a lot of operators will open up their data to me. But the less you pay, the faster you quit. The less contracted the period is, the faster you quit. In fact, one of the behaviours you see in a lot of health clubs, from a sales perspective, is that the salesperson will say, we don't have a contract. If you want, you can quit at the end of this month. Now, they didn't walk in thinking they were going to quit after a month. That's something we put into their heads. So at the end of a month, they go, I could quit now. Well, actually, I've not seen any results. I'll give it another month and see how it goes, and then they quit. We actually prompt quitting, sometimes by the way we sell. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have month by month, but we should have perhaps 3 options maximum. There's the 1 month contract, there's some sort of special, and there's a 12 month. Some countries can have longer than that. New Zealand, I'm doing their study at the moment, they can have 24 and 36 month contracts. What you see is, I'm going to just do this really quickly. What you see is with a 12 month contract, hang on, where's that one? Lost it. Sorry. What you see is a dead straight line, then a cliff with 12 month contracts in terms of payment, but underneath that, if you track visit frequency, you can see when they're dropping out. And we have to intervene when they're dropping out from visits, not when they stop paying. No point ringing them once they quit. Do you want to come back? No. So we know that different ways of selling can impact on retention. Selling to younger members means retention. Selling to students, quit fastest of anybody. Easy to sell to. I even structure with some of the clubs I work with, commission based on age. So students, no commission. 16 to 24-year-olds, low commission. 45 and older, you pay more commission because they're worth more to you as a business. I think the one I showed you was they're worth 12 months more than the youngest age group.
Thank you.
Right, one more, and then we're having lunch, and I can do questions outside if you want to answer me. No, you got to do the mic. I want to see you use a mic.
Can you hear me? With the arrival of budget clubs and more virtual group exercise and stuff like that, clubs having less people in their clubs.
Yeah.
I'm worried about this interaction phenomenon. And my question is, you can also have interaction with people through an email, through a message on their Facebook, whatever.
Yeah.
Do you have any difference between the personal interface or the electronic or virtual interface?
Yeah, 2 things to bear in mind. The impact is much, much less if you do emails or texts or SMS. The response to that, my favourite slide, is about 3 to 5% more likely, as opposed to 20, 50, and 80. It has an impact, but it has a small impact. Here's the thing though, and I'm going to swear, I think I've done well, I've done an hour and I've not sworn once, but I'm going to. I don't think I have, I'll check the video. If they visit today, and you had an opportunity to speak to them face to face, and you didn't, and then you send them an email, they get really pissed off. Because they go, you had a chance to speak to me and you made no effort. And now you go, oh, we're really pleased to see you in the club today. What, so pleased that no one even spoke to me? Now I've got, you know, most of you or some of you will be familiar with David Lloyd as a brand. I've done huge studies for David Lloyd, and I've published some of it in the trade press. I talk to customers who can say, I've been a member 8 years and I do not remember being spoken to on the gym floor while I've been exercising. And I'm getting increasingly the number of people saying, I joined, I had a PT speak to me, but because I didn't buy PT then, now they ignore me. Because they don't perceive me as a potential customer. It's a challenge. I view the same thing that you do. I'm dying to see some data once we've got enough of the new virtual programs in, and I have no issue with that. If it gets some people doing more stuff, that's fine. I just question whether it's the operators putting it in because it suits their services rather than it suits the member behaviour. That's where I put it. I'm not anti-PT, I'm not anti-Group X. I don't care what people do. I don't really care what equipment they use, as long as they're doing something. I just want them to be more active. For me, I just want them to do it within the health club business. If they want to go for a run outside, that's someone else's interest, not mine. If they come back and use our club for the shower and stay a member because they can use our showers, that's what I'm interested in. I've got to stop because you want some lunch. I'm not going anywhere, so you can't get rid of me. Thank you for your attention today. Thank you for the questions.